Ethan switched the main camera to hand mode. The frame was now typical. A little from below, a little from behind. In the light of the lantern, see the backs of Mark and Lucas, their shoulders, backpacks, as in all the popular night studies, which he himself was watched hundreds of times. I'm filming from behind, guys. If anything happens, it's on camera, he said. Mark looked over his shoulder. Yeah, famous last words. They went deeper down the corridor. The camera recorded how the dust rises with each step. Only the following could be heard: steps, light creak of the building, and Ethan's breath in the microphone. Suddenly, the light flashed, not completely disappeared. Just a sharp flash of darkness for a fraction of a second. What the hell was that? Lucas said, and stopped. Ethan instantly pointed the camera forward. In the frame, there is an empty corridor. The lantern shines evenly. No movements. Probably my flashlight, Mark said, but did not move. After a few steps, they reached the old ward department. The door was open. Inside there are rows of beds without mattresses, rusty bedside tables, and children's drawings on the walls still preserved. It was the worst. Ethan slowly panned the room with the camera, as large channels do, slowly, without sudden movements, allowing the viewer to look for something in the dark. And then the camera near the stairs, which they had left earlier, clicked. That was the other camera, Lucas said. It shouldn't be recording motion, Ethan replied. I turned that off. They looked at each other. Mark walked closer to the door of the ward, but suddenly stopped. Guys, what? Ethan turned the camera at him. One of the cameras, Mark swallowed his saliva. The one near the stairs, it's not on the feed. Ethan took out his phone and opened the app. Really? One camera is online, the second is offline. Maybe lost signal, he said quickly, but his voice trembled treacherously. At this moment, the zoom on the phone came a little closer by itself. Ethan didn't touch the screen. Did you just zoom? Lucas asked quietly. No. They froze. The camera in Ethan's hands was still filming from behind. 3 people standing in the middle of the room. Their shadows stretched out on the walls. And then somewhere far away, in the depths of the hospital, there was a dull noise. Not steps. Not a full dot. It's like something was pulled on the floor. Mark laughed nervously. Okay. That's new. Let's check the stairs and grab the camera, said Ethan. Then we leave. They left the room. The camera filmed their backs again. The corridor seemed longer than before, darker. When they approached the stairs, there was no camera there. Only a trace in the dust, as if it had been dragged deep into the flight of stairs. Lucas whispered. We didn't move it. The silence around became thicker. And then, a short sound, as if someone exhaled quietly somewhere nearby. Lucas whispered. We didn't move it. The silence around became thicker. And then, a short sound, as if someone exhaled quietly somewhere nearby. Ethan's camera continued to film. And in the background, in the depths of the frame, for a moment something moved. They didn't speak for a few minutes. Ethan walked first. The camera was still filming from behind. In the frame, the backs of Mark and Lucas, a narrow corridor, shabby walls. The light of the lantern slid over the door with room numbers that had long lost their meaning. Let's just get out, Mark said quietly. This place is done. Lucas did not respond. Lucas, Ethan turned around the half-body, but the camera only captured his shoulder. Lucas stood a little further away, by the open door, and looked inside. I heard something, he whispered. Like ... whispering. You're imagining it, Mark said sharply. Come on. Lucas took a step back, and at that moment the light flashed again. This time, longer, when the lights lit up again. Lucas is gone. What the hell? Mark turned around abruptly. The camera recorded an empty corridor. The door is open. No movement. Lucas called Ethan. There was no answer. Only a faint sound somewhere below, as if someone was slowly going down the stairs. Mark ran to the flight of stairs. Lucas, this isn't funny. Something else came out of the darkness, not a voice. Dry cough. Ethan felt the cold running along his back. We need to go. Now. He pulled Mark's jacket. But he broke away. He wouldn't just leave. At this moment, Ethan's phone vibrated. Message from the camera app. Camera 2. Online. No. He whispered. A video from the stairs appeared on the screen. The camera was lower than before. It was as if someone had put it on a step. And in the frame, at the very edge of the image, part of the leg was visible. Not Lucas. Single quotes. A thin dot to immobile. Mark saw it too. Ethan. He said quietly, "Don't look behind us." The camera, in Ethan's hands, continued to film. And somewhere in the dark behind Thea was another breath, very close. They walked quickly down the corridor, almost running. Ethan held the camera, so that only Mark's back was in the frame. His shoulders were tense. His movements were sharp. "Don't stop," Ethan said. "Just don't stop." "I need a second," replied Mark. 1 minute. Now. Ethan paused. "Are you serious?" Mark was already standing at the door with a half-erased restroom sign. "I'll be right back." "Don't move." He disappeared inside. Ethan was left alone in the hallway. The camera shot forward, but the sound recorded everything. His breathing, the faint hum of the building, the dripping of water somewhere in the pipes. A minute has passed. "Mark," he called quietly. There was no answer. 1 more minute. Ethan walked closer to the door. The camera shook a little. "Dude, this isn't funny." There was a rustle from inside the toilet. It was as if someone had run their hand over the tile. Mark. Silence. Ethan gently pushed the door. It was dark inside. The lantern snatched a row of old sinks, mirrors without glass, cabin doors. Everyone is open. Mark wasn't there. His lantern was on the floor. On. Ethan stepped back. The heart was beating so hard that it could be heard in the microphone. No. 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 And then in the back, somewhere in the corridor, a step sounded on. Then another one. Slow, confident. Ethan turned around abruptly, the camera showing an empty corridor. But the sound didn't stop. The steps were too close. He turned around and ran. The camera was shaking. The walls, doors, and shadows were flickering in the frame. The breath broke into a wheeze, and somewhere behind, in the midst of the noise of his running, a familiar voice sounded. "Ethan. Wait. It was Mark's voice. But Mark could no longer speak. Ethan ran, not understanding the road. The corridors merged into one, the same doors, the same cracks on the walls, the same smell of moisture and old medicines. The camera shook so much that sometimes the frame disappeared in the dark, but the sound did not lie. Heavy breathing, hitting the shoes on the tile, panic curses. No. He stopped abruptly. There was an entrance hall ahead, the same one they went through. Reception desk, overturned chairs. "The clock is on the wall." Ethan lifted the camera closer. The arrow no longer showed to 17. Now they stood at to 16. "That's not possible. Double quotes. He whispered. Something squeaked behind me. Not a step. It was as if they were slowly pressing on the door. Ethan turned around abruptly. Empty. He ran to the exit. The door they went through was closed. Not just closed, blocked. Someone propped them up from the inside with a heavy metal cabinet. "We didn't do this." The voice broke. The phone vibrated again. New footage available. The video appeared by itself, without his actions. Ethan opened the file with trembling hands. The recording came from the same camera they had lost on the stairs. The camera was in the corridor. Immovable. Lucas slowly entered the frame. He walked strangely. To flat. The eyes looked straight into the lens. "Ethan," said Lucas from the screen. "Why did you leave us?" The screen went out abruptly. In the same second the light came on in the hall. Not a lantern. Old lamps under the ceiling, one by one, with a characteristic hum. Ethan was not alone. On the other side of the hall, near the corridor, there were 2 figures. He didn't see their faces, only familiar silhouettes. "Guys," he whispered. One of the figures took a step forward, and she said to him in a voice Don't run. The camera continued to shoot. And there was no way out. Ethan stood motionless, the camera in his hands, no longer trembled. As if the fear had turned into something else, cold, empty clarity. The two figures opposite did not move. They were just waiting. The light in the hall was buzzing, the old lamps were flashing, but not extinguishing. The clock on the wall clicked again. Tick. Ethan slowly lifted the camera higher, pointing the focus. It was Mark and Lucas, but not really. Their faces were pale, as if the color had disappeared from them. The eyes are dark, and naturally calm. They stood too straight, without the usual movements, without the small gestures of a living person. "We're still here," Lucas said. "You just ran." "That's what everyone does," added Mark. "They always leave one behind." Ethan took a step back. "You're not them," he whispered. Mark tilted his head. "We're what stayed." The clock stopped abruptly. 17. The air became thick, heavy. Sounds began to come from the corridors, quiet, numerous, as if the entire hospital was breathing slowly. "It doesn't like being empty," Lucas said. "It needs witnesses." The light behind Ethan's back went out. The only source of light was the camera. "If you leave," continued Mark, "the footage stays. Someone else comes, again, and again." Ethan understood. Video. Canal. Views. The hospital knew how she was being found. "And if I stay?" he asked quietly. They both smiled. "Then it ends." The camera slowly went down. The frame showed only the floor of the hall and the legs of 3 people. Ethan took a step forward. The recording was cut off. Epilogue. The video appeared on the channel 3 days later. The name was simple. "We shouldn't have gone there." No description. No author's comments. The last 10 seconds of the video. Empty hospital hall and the clock on the wall. He stops. At 2:17.